About the year 1328, the parents of St. Sergius moved from Rostov to Radonezh. When their older sons married, Kirill and Maria received the monastic schema shortly before their death at the Katkov Monastery of the Protection of the Most Holy Theotokos, not far from Radonezh. Later on, the older brother Stefan was widowed and became a monk at this same monastery. Having buried his parents, Bartholomew and his brother Stefan withdrew into the forest about 8 miles from Radonezh to live in the wilderness. At first they made cells and then a small church, and with the blessing of Metropolitan Theonostus, it was consecrated in the name of the Most Holy Trinity. But soon, unable to bear the difficulties of life in the wilderness, Stephan left his brother and went on to the Moscow Theophany Monastery, where he became close to St. Alexis, who afterwards became the Metropolitan of Moscow. On October 7th, 1337, Bartholomew was tonsured by Igumen Metrophanes, taking the name of the holy martyr Sergius, and he started to build a new habitation to the glory of the life-changing Trinity. Suffering temptations and demonic apparitions, St. Sergius advanced from strength to strength. Gradually he became known to other monks seeking his guidance. St. Sergius accepted all with love, and soon a brotherhood of 12 monks were gathered in the small monastery. Their experienced spiritual guide distinguished himself by an extraordinary love for work. With his own hands he built several cells, he carried water, he chopped wood, baked bread, sewed clothing, prepared food for the brethren, and humbly took on other tasks. St. Sergius combined the heavy work with prayer, vigil, and fasting. The other monks were amazed that with such severe exertion the health of their guide did not deteriorate, but rather became all the more hardy. It was not without difficulty that they implored St. Sergius to accept the position of igumen of the monastery. In 1354, Bishop Athanasius of Volin ordained the saint a hieromonk and elevated him to the rank of igumen. Just as before, monastic obediences were strictly fulfilled at the monastery. With the expansion of the monastery, its needs also grew. Often the monks had only scant food, but through the prayers of St. Sergius, unknown people provided the necessities. Reports of the activities of St. Sergius became known even at Constantinople. The Patriarch Philotius sent to the monk a cross, a paramon, which is monastic clothing, a 4-cornered cloth tied with cords to the chest and worn beneath other clothing, and adorned with symbols of the Lord's Passion, and a schema robe in blessing for new deeds, and a gramota of blessing in which the Patriarch counseled the chosen of God to organize a Cenobitic monastery. The monks set off with the patriarchal missive to St. Alexis, and received from him the counsel to introduce a strict manner of Cenobitic life. The monks began to grumble at the strictness of the monastic rule, and St. Sergius was compelled to forsake the monastery. At the river Kirchach he founded a monastery in honor of the Annunciation of the Most Holy Theotokos. Matters at the former monastery went quickly into disarray, and the remaining monks recourse to St. Alexis that he should get the saint to return. St. Sergius unquestionably obeyed the holy hierarch and left in place of himself at the Kircharsk monastery his disciple, St. Roman. Already during his lifetime, St. Sergius had been vouchsafed the gift of wonder-working. He raised a lad from the dead at a point when the despairing father had given up on his only son as lost. Reports about the miracles worked by St. Sergius began quickly to spread, and those who were sick began to come to him both from their surrounding villages and also from remote places. And no one left St. Sergius without receiving healing of infirmities or edifying counsel. Everyone gave glory for St. Sergius, and revered him as an equal with the ancient holy fathers. But human glory did not hold allure for the great ascetic, and, as before, he remained the example of monastic humility. At one time, St. Stephan, Bishop of Perm, who deeply revered St. Sergius, was on a journey from his diocese to Moscow. The roadway passed about 5 miles distant from the Sergiev monastery. Unable to visit the monastery on his return trip, the saint stopped, and having recited a prayer, he bowed to St. Sergius with these words, "Peace be to thee, spiritual brother." At this instant, St. Sergius was sitting in the trapeza for a meal with the brethren. In reply to the blessing of the Holy Hierarch, St. Sergius rose up, recited a prayer, and made a return blessing to St. Stephen. Certain of the disciples, astonished at the extraordinary actions of St. Sergius, hastened off to the indicated place and became convinced of the veracity of the vision. Gradually, the monks began to witness also other similar actions. Once, during liturgy, an angel of the Lord served with the saint, but St. Sergius, in his humility, forbade anyone to tell about this until after his death. St. Sergius was connected with St. Alexis by close bonds of spiritual friendship and brotherly love. St. Alexis, in his declining years, summoned St. Sergius to him and besought him to accept to be the Russian metropolitan, but St. Sergius humbly declined. The Russian land at this time suffered under the Mongol-Tartar yoke. Having gathered an army, great Prince Demetrius Ivanovich of the Don went to the monastery of St. Sergius to ask blessings in the pending struggle. St. Sergius gave blessings to 2 monks of his monastery to render help to the great prince, the schema monk Andrei and the schema monk Alexander, and he predicted the victory for Prince Demetrius. The prophecy of St. Sergius was fulfilled. On September 8th, 1380, on the feast day of the Nativity of the Most Holy Theotokos, Russian soldiers gained a total victory over the Tartar hordes at Kolikova Field, and set in place the beginning of the liberation of the Russian land from the Mongol yoke. During the fighting, St. Sergius and the brethren stood at prayer and besought God to grant victory to the Russian forces. For his angelic manner of life, St. Sergius was granted a heavenly vision by God. One night, Abba Sergius was reading the rule of prayer beneath an icon of the Most Holy Theotokos. Having completed the reading of the canon to the Mother of God, he sat down to rest. But suddenly he said to his disciple, St. Michael, that there awaited them a wondrous visitation. After a moment the Mother of God appeared, accompanied by holy apostles Peter and John the theologian. Due to the extraordinary bright light, St. Sergius fell down, but the Most Holy Theotokos touched her hands to him, and in blessing him promised to always be protectress of the holy monastery. Having reached old age and foreseeing his own end 6 months beforehand, St. Sergius summoned the brethren to him and designated his disciple, St. Nikon, who was experienced in the spiritual life and obedience, to be igumen. In tranquil solitude, St. Sergius fell asleep in the Lord on September 25th, 1392. On the night before, the great saint of God summoned the brethren a final time to give them his final instruction. Brethren, be attentive to yourselves. Have first the fear of God, purity of soul, and unhypocritical love.